Oh, hello, hello. There's my name up on there. I need to get that off there. I got an orange in this. I don't know what's going on. Guys, November 13th. Oh, oh, what a day it has been. Let me see if I can get this name off of here. That's weird. All right, we're good. Guys, this has been a very wrecked day for all markets, stock market as well. It has been brutal. I think everyone's like, well, the government's back up and running. What's going on here? We're going to talk a little bit about all that that's taking place. Let me see if I can get this coloring to be a little bit better here. I don't know why there's a weird hue to my face there. All right, we're good. We're going to break down some of the events that have taken place. We're going to talk about the government. We're going to talk about it's back up and running. So other reports that are coming out, though, about some of the job reports that may or may not be coming out and how that could impact the Fed decision in December, what I think is happening to markets right now, how that's all having an impact. We're also going to be talking about what's going on in crypto and some deep end projects that actually are holding up quite well today compared to the rest of the market. Maybe because a lot of them already dropped 90%. That's like, we've been going through pain all year and everyone else is like, what's going on? It's like, dude, we have been here all year. You've just been in the stock market. My stock portfolio has actually done quite well this year. But all the people now that are like freaking out today, it's like, it's just like a normal day for us in altcoins. Shit. This has been like all year. Right. Okay, let's talk about the government shutdown ending. We saw things kind of pump a little bit leading up to this. I think when the reports came out over the weekend that the government is going to be back up and running again, we saw the market react to that. It was pretty baked in that it's going to happen within a 3-day period. By the time we got into really Monday, so I think we saw that baked in. What we don't have baked in my opinion, to this point, is the fact that there's a lot of liquidity that was pulled out of markets. This is the Treasury, basically bank account, if you will, and they hold a balance, but this is got a lot higher than it normally does. So there is above and beyond probably $150 billion that's going to be going on and circulating. I don't think that liquidity has been baked into what could happen with markets as liquidity starts to flow again. That said, though, guys, like, why are we seeing such a big drop today? Everyone's like, government's up and running, all this good news, what's going on? This is something I posted and I talked about recently, is like, it's supposed to be BLS. I couldn't edit after I sent this. But, one of the things that we haven't had to deal with is labor numbers since the government's been shut down. We've seen a lot of reports about layoffs, but we haven't seen the actual numbers. And, yes, the reopening is good for liquidity, and I think we still will see that liquidity effect take place soon. But the labor numbers are still a concern. And we started getting these reports today that, from the White House saying, the October employment report for the payroll side will be able to be calculated, but the household survey wasn't complete. So basically saying that the government will be unable to determine what the unemployment rate was in October. So we'll be able to sort of get half a jobs report. But most everything else, I think we'll be able to concoct the correct number after we look back, but we'll never know what the unemployment number was in October because there's no household survey. So I think people are freaking out about this a little bit, mainly because it could impact what the Fed does in December as far as rate cuts go. On the other end too, talking about the inflation report, I had some highlights in here, but anyway, says that the Labor Department was scheduled to release the October CPI for inflation numbers on Thursday, but the report is delayed. It's uncertain when or if the report will be released. Okay, we're not trying to play music here. Get out of here. Oh, man. All right, whatever. All right, so it says that the estimates, though, according to the Cleveland Fed's inflation nowcast, so there's a different report, says that CPI is expected to have gone up 0.18% on a monthly basis, and core up 0.25%. Says year over year CPI was up 2.96% in October versus core CPI at 2.99%. So we're seeing inflation tick back up according to these metrics. We're not going to get all the official CPI numbers. this was crazy. I forgot about this. Back in June of 2022, we got up to 9.1% inflation, which is actually bullshit. It was way higher, way higher. The CPI numbers are all BS. The way they calculate it's changed like several times. But that's the situation here, guys. Because Jerome Powell, if you all remember, in the Fed meeting, the last one, he said, hey, December rate cuts not guaranteed. Far from it, he went on to say. And they said that they don't want to go in blind and make decisions without the data. Well, what's the data that's most important to them? Labor numbers and CPI. Well, what do they do if they don't have those numbers? And that is exactly why you're seeing this on Polymarket. These are the odds of a rate cut. It was way up here. It's like 90% not long ago. We are now down to about a 50-50 chance of a rate cut in December. This is what markets are reacting to today, guys. Is this report from the White House that the numbers aren't going to be there. And now everyone's like, shit, a 15% drop off in the likelihood of a rate cut. And that had obviously been baked in. So now we're in a situation where the market's like 50-50. Okay. We're seeing the same thing on Kalshi as far as rate cut odds go. Huge shift. And again, this is all today based on those statements from the White House. How is this going to play out? Well, I personally think I think job numbers probably look fucking horrible if I were to guess. I think they don't want to release them right now. They don't want to scare the markets. And the Fed meeting is not for another month. So I think if they can delay freaking out markets and then release the statistics as we close in on that FOMC meeting, that's kind of a best case scenario. I think that's how the White House is looking at it, at least, I would think, because they definitely want a rate cut in December. They know the data needs to be there to support it. If they can hold off, though, on getting that data out there, I think they will. I think that's what they're doing. So that is how I kind of see this playing out. On the positive end of that, we'll have to keep an eye on this because, again, this is why the prediction markets are so important, guys. You get a real look into what markets are baking in. So in this case, there is certainly 50% upside now. Back when we had 90% likelihood of a rate cut, that as we close in would be pretty much baked in. There'd be about 10% upside if it actually happened. Well, now, if I am right and they start releasing some data as we get closer and push for Jerome Powell's hand, we'll probably see this tick back up as well, I think, as we get closer, depending on how they play this, of course. But that means there is a lot more upside potentially from where we are currently if the rate cuts happen. There is also downside, though, right? There's a 50-50 chance that, if we don't get a rate cut, that's more downside risk that has not been baked in yet. Okay, so you have to pay really close attention to this as we get closer to this December FOMC meeting. But that, I think, is why the government being back up and running, I think that's why we saw this sell-off. Not super surprising with this news, but I think we'll see the liquidity start to flow back into markets. I think things should probably ease here a little bit. I think we will see things start to recover a bit. But really, guys, the real deal with crypto right now, in my opinion, is that we have not been the same since October 10th. I think Binance seriously fucked up. And I think a lot of big players got crippled behind the scenes. I think some large market makers got really messed up. We don't know what happened. Maybe at some point we'll start getting more info on what really happened behind the scenes. But the markets have been really wrecked for the last month, ever since is when that China tariff situation happened. And then we had the huge washout where we saw certain prices of tokens like Cosmos go down to a penny. I have played this once. I'm going to play it again. This is the Wintermute CEO talking about their experience with it.
It's supposed to be a matter of the very, very last resort. And that, I think, is where we will see a lot of, well, basically challenges from a lot of trading firms to a lot of exchanges in the coming days and maybe weeks. Because I can tell you, for us, for example, some of the ADL fields we got were very strange. So it just didn't make sense for us. There were some perpetual positions where we got ADL, like on Binance and some other platforms, and okay, it's fine to get ADL if you can hedge, but also our challenge was sometimes you'd get ADL to completely ridiculous price. It just didn't make any sense. The most ridiculous case, I think it was, I don't know, price we got ADL was let's say $1, and sorry, we got the deal at $5, and the thing was called trading at $1. So, and then you just don't even have a chance to hedge basically anywhere. So you're just stuck with a loss right away. So starting.
So Wintermute, and there's some rumors that emerged about this, guys, that Wintermute was suing Binance. And Wintermute came out and said, no, that's not true. This was obviously after this interview that took place. I think that they're settling this behind the scenes. The other thing I want to point out here is that Binance, right after this, came out and they're like, hey, we're going to launch this together initiative and give out $400 million of recovery funds to build back confidence in everyone. Like, if that's not a fucking admission of guilt, I don't know what is. They obviously know they messed up. They liquidated a bunch of people. I think it really torched a lot of the big players behind the scenes. And it's just been, there's been instability ever since. And I think Binance is really to blame here. And you know what? It sucks, dude, but we will recover. We've seen these. I mean, you guys remember with FTX, if you're around for that, we have FTX wasn't the only thing. We had like 4 different exchanges go under, money, market makers go under. It was a catastrophe. Everyone thought it was dead. When you zoom out and look at the big picture here, this does suck. And I don't think we're going to get through it immediately. But you look at all the legislation that's going through. You look at all the positive catalysts that are taking place, all the ties to institutional money, not just in the U.S., but across the world. You have to really pay attention to the details. If you're sitting on crypto Twitter all day and you're looking at just the prices right now without any additional context and looking at the bigger picture, then you're going to sell and you're going to be, I think, very unhappy in the future because things are setting up for things to really recover. It's just a matter of when, in my opinion. But right now, it is painful, guys. It is super painful. There's no doubt about it. The good news, I would say, and I hate to say this, but the stock market's getting wrecked today too. And I say that's good news because we as altcoin holders have been just destroyed all year. Bitcoin's hit new all-time highs, whatever. When the stock market starts getting hit like this, it's going to force the White House to start making some moves. They're going to start freaking out a little bit. We're already starting to see a little bit of this. This report came out today. Scott Bessent said, we're going to have substantial tariff relief on coffee and bananas, starting with, coffee and bananas. I don't know that coffee is going to save our bags here, but I think it's a shift. He said it's tough to do a lot of specific things, but the administration would be moving to cut duties on a number of things that we don't grow here in the United States. No shit. Like, it made no sense to tariff things that we can't do here anyway in the first place. They did it for bargaining power at the beginning, but it really has messed with markets. He indicated that coffee, bananas, and other fruits be among the items to see some import tariff or tax relief, but did not say how. That will bring prices down very quickly. So they obviously have looked at, there's a couple things here to unpack, I think. They've looked at the CPI numbers and they're like, shit, we need to get, prices down, because if we don't, then they're not going to cut rates anymore. The other thing, though, is they're getting a lot of pressure on the tariffs in general from the Supreme Court. So you're seeing, they're saying, oh, there's going to be a lot of movement on tariffs in the coming weeks. Yeah, I think they're feeling the pressure. They need to get this stuff sorted out. They need to get tariffs down. And they need to get these, I think they need to get these discussions done with and things back on the right track. Now that they're looking, they have the labor numbers too. They just don't want to release them. And MicroStrategy getting shafted. Yeah, that's true too. So here's the deal, guys. I think this October 10th event was definitely a black swan event. That you see washouts in markets, but it was like 20 times anything we'd ever seen before. And I think there is some weird, funny business going on with Binance. I like how when people are like, "Oh, I predicted this black swan event." It's like, well, fuckface. Do you know what the definition of a black swan event? It's not something you can predict. Anyway, so yeah, so we had the October 10th washout. We had the government shutdown, longest government shutdown in history. And it all happened to align with the 4-year market cycle. Okay. And you have all the, people that are like, hey, 4-year market cycle is a thing. Right now, they look like they're correct. I don't think that's going to be the case looking a little bit further out. But all that coming together is why we are, I think, where we are right now. Then you add like the job market situation, the statements made today by the White House. Let's talk about some of the positive things. Okay, so I think we will see a rate cut in December. So I think that is coming. Quantitative tightening is ending on December 1st. We have the crypto bill, the market structure bill, that's expected to very likely pass this year, if not, then early next year. There's like 100 spot ETFs that are about to get approved that were delayed because of the government shutdown. You've got Solana breakpoint in December. And I think the big thing really is in May, Jerome Powell's out. You better believe that they're going to do everything. They're going to pull out all the stops to push markets up into the midterms. Because I'll tell you this much, if the Republicans lose the midterms, they're going to try to impeach Trump every step of the way, and they're going to try to block everything, and they know that. So I would bet they're going to not only cut rates drastically into next summer, but I would expect quantitative easing is going to be crazy, and I would not at all be shocked if that $2,000 check does end up going out. Right now, they're saying for families or I think individual under $100,000. I think they're going to pull out all the stops next summer, and they're going to have to do damage control leading up to May anyway. So I still think that we end up bouncing back here, but this is painful. There's no doubt about it, guys. Especially if you're new to crypto, shit, man. This is, in my opinion, this feels worse than the FTX situation. It really does. And maybe it's recency bias, but that's how I feel. Let's see. Too many coins pulling retail in too many different directions. I'm going to talk about that today. Actually, I do have that. I have some thoughts on that. I've been thinking about it quite a bit. But how about this? Fear and greed at 15. Woo! We haven't seen this since the big tariff scare back in April. So, man, it's bad out there. That said, guys, this is, in my opinion, if you look historically, this is the time to really be honing in. For real, when you get down to extreme fear, 15, 10, somewhere in that range is wild. Now, I think this is a solid take. It says if you've been sidelined, so if you are sitting on stables, I believe it's a good opportunity to scale into high conviction tokens. So I'll tell you, for me, I have been on the dips the last couple of weeks and added some more today to 375 AI, added some more to Aoki. Didn't go like full port in, guys. Like I'm because I think there could still be some downside ahead, but I want to lower my average, continue lowering my average. My EAT average is probably lower than the current prices, but I think it's going to go higher in the future. So to me, exactly. Buying opportunity for long-term holders. If you're willing to kind of wait this thing out, and you're not trying to just trade, these are the times that you look back and thank yourself. This reminds me of 2022 into 2023. People that invested heavily in those times they don't even give a shit right now. They probably cash out in 2024. I had some really good plays and did really, really well on those plays. But if you'd gone in heavy on the right plays back then, you'd be done, right? So this is the time, guys. Don't grab a falling sword with both hands. That's true as well. And that's why I say DCA, guys. I still have a fair amount of stables, but I am planning over the coming weeks to deploy because I think this is where you don't want to try to time the bottom perfectly, but these prices, even if we go lower, I'm like, hey, my high conviction plays, I believe are going to be much higher when things do bounce back, and I am looking at this on a longer term time frame than a lot of people, I think. Okay, but if you look at the crypto bubbles, y'all, like, yuck. Okay, it's pretty disgusting. Telcoin had a big announcement today. This is one I've been holding for like years in some like random ass wallet. I took this as an opportunity when it really pumped up to cash that out. I have it sitting in stables now, and I am going to deploy into Aoki and into 375 AI. Like, that's my plan in DCA as we see dips. There is a lot of sideline money. There's about $7 trillion sitting in money markets right now. It's absolutely true. There's a lot of money sitting on the sidelines, a lot of money in stable coins right now, kind of waiting for the sentiment to change. It's 100% accurate. I agree. Looking at Bitcoin, guys, we bounced back up. Okay, so we've been holding the mid 98,000s has been holding. We've continued to see it. Now, if that gives, we likely are looking at 95,000, and then from there, I think 91,000. There's pretty good support. If we break below that, I think we're in for a fair amount of pain. But this level has been holding, and I joined Brandon's Discord, and he opened up a couple shorts but closed them, and it's like, hey, at this point, it's holding support. Let's see where this thing goes. Like, I think we have to break back above like 106,000 and turn that into support to see us back up in an uptrend. But for now, we're ranging, which is pretty fucking remarkable, actually. You consider how many OGs have sold over the last 2 months. You consider the market conditions we've seen, all the things I already mentioned at the top. Like, the fact that we're holding here is actually bullish, in my opinion. It's pretty shocking, actually. Ethereum at just over $3,200. Well, I mean, as long as we hold above $2,800, I think we're okay for now. We'll probably be ranging in here. I'm not looking to make any plays on Ethereum right now. Like, I'm just not really interested in it. Solana's gotten absolutely freaking crushed. Man, we are so on track. We got to $250 and everything just like kind of fell apart. That sucked. One thing I will say about Solana that we need to also keep in mind, which is something I haven't really talked about, a lot of people haven't really talked about, is while we didn't see new all-time high in September as far as price goes, right? We saw the all-time high at the end of last year. We actually did see, and that actually is back in December or January, I think, of earlier this year. We saw an all-time high for Solana. We actually did see an all-time high for market cap. So with Solana, there's 7% inflation annually. So that's something you have to consider. There's some talks about maybe votes to stop so much inflation. But while we didn't see an all-time high price in September of this year, we did see an all-time high market cap. And that inflation does have an impact for sure, guys. But here is something, before we get into the alts here, there's something that was brought up. There's too many coins pulling retail money in too many different directions. It's true. People are throwing this number out there a lot. There's 27 million coins or 37 million coins. I think it's important to keep in mind here, the top 10 coins are 90% of the entire crypto market cap. The top 50 is 98%. So while there are these millions and millions of coins out there, the vast majority of them are dead. They're not really pulling liquidity. The top 50 making up 98% of the market cap. When you start looking at some of these deep in projects that we're in that are super low caps, it doesn't take a whole lot for these things to run. They just need to get interest, right? And that's why right now, as the markets are down, the ones that have the revenue and are doing open market buys, I think they have the chance to draw some eyes. As well as this crypto legislation, and we start seeing more TradFi people come in. But I think it is key that the token price is supported by revenue. I think the days of some of these projects out there, I'm not going to name them, that are just like, hey, look, we have revenue, but it's not really flowing. The value's not really flowing to our token price. That's going to be a red flag soon. Some people have caught on, for sure. Some of the people that I'm in some groups with that have been in deep in for a while. A lot of people still, I don't think, have, but I think that's going to change here. But this is a different view of that, right? I think, not to say that dilution doesn't matter, guys. And I think Pump.Fund fucked up 2024. It pulled liquidity from other projects for sure. Okay. But I think when we're looking at it right now, it's not like it's like 37 million coins that are active, that are pulling everyone's attention right now. I think the vast majority of those are completely dead tokens. So it does reshape my opinion on that a little bit. Okay. Before we get into deep in, let's see what we got here for some comments. Someone, man, the money printers, it's coming. Free Scrally. You know what's crazy about that, by the way? I remember I put a video out on IONET back right before they had their token launch. And I don't know if you all remember this, but their CEO was caught up in some shady business and ended up stepping down. Martin Shkreli DM'd me on X and was like, "Hey man, are they paying you for this video?" I'm like, "Nah, man. Like, I just, the project looks legit. Wanted to put a video out." And we were kind of going back and forth. He was sending me all the receipts of the shit, the research that he was pulling up about their CEO and some of the GPUs that didn't seem to actually be live. And he's one that exposed them, that caused their CEO to step down. But it was wild, man, that I was like messaging Shkreli on X about it. I guess he watched my video. So let's see. Love how people panic when Bitcoin is in the upper 90s to lower 100s. That's true too. Guys, it's not even a year ago that we broke 100 for the first time. Less than a year ago. It's like, oh man. And everyone was euphoric. That was actually, you know what? That's crazy. We hit a 90 on the green index. Granted, alts were popping off too, but it was right around Thanksgiving last year. And we hit 100. We hadn't even hit 100K at that point yet. I think it was like maybe December 5th. I have to look at the exact date. And here we are sitting at 100K and we're at 15 on extreme fear. It's amazing how much shifts in a year, but how much emotion really can take a toll on markets, man. It is pretty wild. Just keeping up with the eat dips. Let's go. Me too, man. Me too. What do you say here? I live by the I was on the live by the 4-year cycle train. Me too. But like you, I see QE, rate cuts, stablecoins supporting treasuries with center market. I agree with all this. I think that's absolutely right. The business cycle too has been extended this time. So I think the business cycle has a huge impact. You see QE coming, rate cuts coming. It's hard for me to bet against risk on assets when we know rate cuts are coming, quantitative tightening is ending, QE is going to start, and then we have a new Fed chair coming in that they're going to put somebody in there that's going to cut rates and juice markets like crazy. Especially knowing the midterms are coming up and what's at stake. There's a lot at stake in these midterms. So I 100% agree. And the stablecoin supporting treasuries. Yeah, you see our bank adoption with stablecoins, and we need the stablecoin issuers to buy up our treasuries to push rates down. Like, it has to happen. So I agree with all that, 100%. Short term, we have market share rebound with Snap getting funded. Yeah, that's valid as well. 3 weeks of back pay to Fed workers. I think some of the Fed workers are getting paid, but yeah, that's absolutely true. Not all. Air travel resuming. Yeah, I agree. It might be a little bit rough. I don't think it's like the airports are going to be like back to fully smooth sailing. I hope so by Thanksgiving travel. We'll see. But yeah, I think those are all really good points too. How much supply came in with the Sol unlock? Saw the headline, didn't read the details. It's 7% a year, I believe. 2 million market cap for XNet, 70 million. Many others quite cheap. Yes. So it's important to remember. I put out a post about this earlier this week. I was like, hey, we should normalize. Maybe it might even been today. I don't know, man. My days are running together. It's been long. It was something along the lines of we should, instead of screenshotting your portfolio when we're in extreme greed, we should normalize screenshotting it when we're in extreme fear so that you can remind yourself in the future to take profits. You remember how far you've come and how much it sucked when everything was down. But 100%, man. There are a lot of cheap projects, and it's crazy when you do get into. And maybe the bull runs aren't going to be the same, but I remember last market cycle, finding a project that was like under 10 million that was like legit was like impossible. 100 million got to the point where it's like, man, this is a good buy. So these are the times to hunt for those gems for sure. Glad to hear. Yeah, this is step off the ledge. Yeah, it is. It was a good point, and because I was wondering what the statistics were there, but that does change the mindset a little bit on that. Shkreli is legendary. He's a smart motherfucker. That's for sure about that. All right, let's talk about some deep pin stuff. We had this Joey Hiller put this out. Helium Mobile is now number 89 in the top charts for utilities. So that's pretty cool. Passing up Mint Mobile. Got some love today. The other thing that came up was that so following yesterday's all-time high in daily data transfer, we also saw revenue reach new all-time highs of $413,000 a week. And I know personally a lot of people are deploying, man. There are people that are deploying like crazy. So I would expect that revenue to keep going up. Now, there is important to remember and keep in mind that some of these telecoms may start paying less over time. But with the growth trajectory we're seeing, I think we're still going to see positive revenue growth for sure. But this is good to see. I mean, these are some crazy charts that we're seeing with helium. And of course, going to it's back up, going back up again. It was down earlier. But look at this. Look at since they made that announcement of open market buys at $1.80 back on October 17th. I mean, it moved up, and through all of this crazy turmoil in markets, it's kind of been just chopping, man. It's still up like 25-30%. So to me, now, if this is sitting at $20 or something and it was not net deflationary, I'd be like, I don't know. There's limited upside here. I think where we're at right now, at this price currently, with the changes they've made, I think there is still plenty of upside for helium. But just like any project, it can get to a point where it becomes expensive. So now is the time. That's why when there's fear in markets, you get some of these discounts on some of these projects that look quite attractive. GeoNet's another one, right? Where, they have, I went through this yesterday, the day before. They're getting close to being net deflationary. Their revenue is growing. Part of that's the price is down so much, right? The lower the price, the more tokens get burned from that subsequent revenue. As that price goes up, you kind of hit this equilibrium. But there's a halving event that takes place every June. So the emissions continue to get cut in half. To me, it's just like a matter of, okay, this is eventually going to pop. And the move to Solana should get them on some exchanges. So I think GeoNet, hitting on that robotics narrative too, it's just a matter of time, man. Just a matter of time. It's been frustrating to be a holder this year, but it is down less than others at least. 375 AI. I mean, I talk about this every damn day. To me, the critical number here, we're sitting at just over 5 cents. I mean, they're early investors, and I brought this up on a space earlier. These people invested $10 million. I mean, I'm sure they probably know Harry's background, but it's not like they just were willy nilly, hey, here's 10 mil. They looked at this and they're like, okay, is there, look, what's the risk profile? What's the upside? They're not doing it to fucking break even. Their tokens are locked up for 4 years, right? They're looking at it because they have a tremendous amount of upside. That's the only reason they would agree to that. They bought it at 5.5 cents, right? And we're sitting at below the price that they got in it. We don't have a lockup period, man. To me, you look at that, just that alone, and the fundamentals are there. The leadership's there. Anything under 5.5 cents, I'm like, dude, sign me up. I've just been buying. Obviously, freaking not enough apparently to push it back up above 5.5 cents. But I just keep DCAing. I've been doing it all day. If it drops lower, I would do it more aggressively. But I've just been kind of buying through all of this just because, I wish if we get back down. I don't think we're gonna do it. If we get back down to 2.8 cents, I'm just gonna cash out my fucking 401k and just pull full port. That's how I feel about this. All right, let's talk about Aoki. I've talked about 375 AI enough, I think, at this point. If you guys don't know enough about it, I have a million freaking videos, so you can go check it out pretty much every day. Aoki and this GAIB partnered up. So this pretty big deal. I had some highlights here. So Aoki is creating the real world web. So allows AI devices and robots to collaborate and browse physical spaces. So that's the big thing that's coming up. All these humanoid robotic manufacturers are coming to market. A lot of them have not really figured out, okay, we made these great robots, but how do we make sure they can navigate the real world now? That's kind of the hard part, right? They got to that step. The one that was shipping, the robot that everyone was had all over Twitter a couple weeks ago. Those are remote controlled. Literally, there are people in another country remote controlling robots in your house, looking at all your shit. No, thank you, dude. No way. No, wait. So Aoki is basically fixing that problem. So they have all these robotics manufacturers that are coming in. They're a known name now. And they're like, holy shit, this is exactly what we need. Like, we need to work together. Some of them are like, hey, we'll sign exclusivity with you, etc. So pretty solid stuff there. They also have this Cactus. This is an AI app for retail, for like virtual reality. They already have a ton of retail locations, thousands, and they're also like doing a pilot for some in the US right now too, guys. So they have like real revenue. This is a solid project. They've got good leadership, man, with Nils. And then GAIB is kind of the economic layer. So they're basically taking robotics infrastructure and tokenizing it, bringing it on chain. So they're working together. This is some wild shit. Robotics is the next big thing, guys. Like, for real. AI has been massive. I'm not saying AI will continue to be massive, but the next big thing is robotics. Robotics. Jensen Wong was talking about it. Even like Brandon, the guy that has been trading unbelievably well this year, he's pulled a lot of money. He's going into like privatized robotics investments. It's the next big wave of capital, guys. And I need to read this. Trail to Crypto put out this thread. I saw it right before I came on. I need to read through what he put out there for Aoki, but he replied to one of my posts and was like, hey man, check out my thread. So I am going to give that a look-see. But this is another one, at 1.4 cents. It's a newer token too. It's been around for just over a year. Launched last August. They're getting a ton of traction now at the right time. Robotics is about to, I think, start to really, really go off. And people, you remember the AI narrative like in 2023, 2024, and crypto, everyone's like, I'm an AI company now. I think we're going to see something similar. Everyone's going to be a robotics company pretty soon here. But you got to figure out which ones are the real ones. And this is a real one, man. It's down quite a bit, 44% over the last month. So I've been, this week especially, I've been DCAing some more, because I bought all the way up at like 2.1 cents. So I want to get my average cost down during these periods of time. So this is another one I'm really interested in adding to my position. And it really hasn't had its moment yet. I mean, like, it got up to 5.7 cents all-time high. That's not that crazy. So this is one that I think could absolutely go off. I do want to mention a couple of TGEs coming up. So Tashi Network has their TGE coming up. Looks like on December 4th. And they're doing decentralized compute for basically gaming servers, but they're also working to do a coordination layer for robotics. I believe they've met with some of the higher profile robotics companies. Like, I talked to Mike Gordon from GeoNet. He's like, hey man, I think their project's solid. Ken, their CEO, is super bright. So I ran it by Horton. I tend to do that. Just get, gauge his sentiment on things. And he's a believer in this project. I know they met with Aoki as well. I think this could be a good project. Now, the thing for me with these TGEs is not buying immediately. We've seen time and time again the sell-off, right? I will say the same thing with like Daba Network. Like, they have their TGE coming up. They just announced a partnership. They're deploying hotspots for Domino's all over India. You look at their progress here on hotspots deployed, they're just under 30,000 now. So they've been growing pretty quickly. Their network usage, sitting at over 300 terabytes of data a day. So that they're moving in the right direction too. Great projects. They kind of remind me of what I saw with Nosana. This is one of my best investments I've ever made when markets were totally fucked and no one wanted to buy anything and everyone's scared. I got in this at like 2 cents. So I wish I'd gotten back here at 1 cent. I got it at 2 cents. This thing went on to do like a freaking 350x in the next 6 months. So I'm not saying those projects are going to do that, but I think, that just goes to show, like, these are the times when everyone's afraid to look at these types of projects. We saw this with HiveMapper too, guys. I mean, HiveMapper was like sitting at like just over 1 cent. They hadn't had their big pump yet. Boom. We had this big move up when they got the Coinbase listing. They got to figure some shit out now to tie their revenue to their token price a little better, in my opinion, if we want to see a rebound. But just go to show, like, when these projects have haven't had their big moment yet, especially, these are the ones to be looking at. But I want to take you back to the 375 AI chart. So we saw the launch, right? And here's what you see in these types of market conditions. You have to expect that anyone that gets an airdrop or gets tokens at the beginning, you got a lot of farmers out there that are going to sell. So that's why, like, looking at this, and these are interesting market conditions. We're kind of learning on the fly here. We haven't seen TGEs for legit projects that already have revenue and product market fit and all these things that have long-term viability. We haven't seen projects launch with all of that going for them, right? In the past is like, hey, we're just going to do TGE and hope that we build up supply and maybe we'll get demand someday. This is a totally different ballgame here, but we haven't seen all that in these market conditions. So just like he said, hey man, agree about TGE and ICOs, wait for the drop after launch. So I want to keep a close eye on Daba and on Tashi after launch. Do we see a drop off, and what kind of market cap are we looking at? Like, it's important to it's really important. I mean, the fundamentals, like, is it a long-term play for you? Or, do they have the team? But it still has to be at an attractive price point for upside. If they're launching at $1 billion market cap, like, fuck all. I don't care. Like, if you have a great, if you have a great project and the fundamentals are there, but like it's likely going to be overvalued, right? So it depends on the project. But for me, for both of those, Tashi and Daba, if we see a big sell-off at the beginning, these market conditions can be a gift where you get to a point where it's like, hey, you can't ignore these prices. These things are fire sales. 2.8 cents on 375 AI. Guys, I think in a year or two, we're going to look back at that and be like, holy shit, that was a generational entry. So that is what I'm going to be looking at with Daba, with Tashi as well. I'm going to wait. You look here. So they had their TGE. It was really about 2 to 3 days. So really day 2 through 5 was when you saw really the lows of that. And then you saw the buying pick up and kind of come back up. So that's what I'm looking at. Really, the 2 days after launch, maybe I'll start DCAing if it looks attractive again, right? So that is the thing you got to really pay attention to. Is what market cap are they launching at, and at what point does it look attractive? So that is the dealio. Speaking of High Mapper, by the way, they did launch a demo of their API playground. So this is actually kind of cool, man. They are building out tools for devs. If you go down in there, like he shows you here, you can go down there, you can click on different things. You can see different views. I mean, that's pretty freaking cool, man. They are building out some really useful tools. So you gotta hand that to them, man. And they do have customers, but again, I'd like to see them do some things with the token value. It's something we talked a lot about on the AMA. So I think if we see Helium price continue to do better than the rest of the market, I think we're going to see a lot of projects be forced to kind of follow their lead. Also, by the way, on Tuesday, I had Harry Dewhurst on my space. It's very well attended. 1,700 people tuned into that. So it's a pretty good one. I encourage you to listen. He dropped some serious alpha in there. If it's a project you're interested in, I encourage you guys to check that out. I was also today on Crypto Empress's space. We talked about 375 AI. She's got a big following. It was pretty solid space, I would say. Tuesday, going back on with Neil from Havelo, we're going to do a 2-part robotics series. So I think we might get a founder or two on for like a short period to interview them. And then we're kind of going to run through our robotics plays. So that'll be on Tuesday. And tonight, in like an hour and 15 minutes, I need to make some food and a drink, man. But we got our Deep in Happy Hour coming up here in an hour and 15 minutes. That'll be streamed to my YouTube channel, to X, and to these other guys' accounts as well. So check that out. And then tomorrow, I'm excited about this. I've got a call with these guys. Daylight, they had the biggest raise recently, at least for any Deep in projects, 75 million. They're building out infrastructure, but solar. And I was like, they reached out to me like, hey man, like, you have experience in Deep in and solar, right? And I'm like, yeah, you could say that, man. Like, I was in the solar for 14 years and was a national sales trainer and manage like 10 states and like $120 million in revenue. Yeah. And they're like, well, we're looking at moving into the Illinois market. I'm like, well, that's the market I ran. And you probably have a hard time finding someone that has that much solar experience in Illinois that also knows DeepIn. So maybe we can work together. So I'm going to talk to them and see what their game plan is, and see if there's some ways we can work together in some capacity. We'll see. So excited about that too. I think it could be a solid project. So a lot going on, guys. Now it's so easy to get discouraged right now, and the markets are just fucking cooked, and it's just absolutely brutal. And it's as crazy as it is, from an emotional standpoint, it's like these are the times really that the best opportunities are there. And like you look back later and you're gonna be like thanking yourself if you make the right plays. So as Free Scully said, I'm not trying to catch a falling sword right now. Like it's more like a pouncing at dips, DCAing in, getting my average cost of entry in. That way I'm not losing sleep at night. And, the things that the moves, and this is true of most things in life, the moves you're making now will pay off a year or two down the road, hopefully sooner, maybe 6 months. But all the work you're putting in now, you don't see it right away, but you'll see it down the road. If you're slacking off right now, in 6 months or a year from now, you're gonna be like, man, why the fuck was I slacking off back then? Right? Like it's something to really think about. Jordy Visser's videos and blogs lately has me very optimistic about AI. Jordy Visser is freaking awesome, man. I went through his Substack on what was it, on the silent IPO of Bitcoin, talking about how the OG holders are selling their Bitcoin because they finally have the liquidity to do so, and this big changing of hands this whole year, and why we've been kind of in this consolidation range. Once we get through that, how things are going to explode. That's a really cool one. I would recommend checking that out. Just Google Jordy Visser silent IPO for Bitcoin, and it'll come up. But definitely worth checking out, guys. 9 small solar panels and 6,000. I don't know what 6,000 XP means. Everyone should experiment with solar. Solar's freaking awesome, guys. I put a video out on my channel about how the big problem for AI is going to be the energy infrastructure. You're seeing more and more accounts post about this now. But it's going to be a huge problem for the US. You look at what China is doing compared to the US, like their energy infrastructure is exponentially increasing. Ours is like has not really moved. We do have nuclear being built, but that takes years. Solar farms you can get up pretty quickly, and I think people are going to have to turn to solar farms. First Solar is a project that I called out in that video at around $200, and that thing it's up to like $270 since then. That was only a few months ago. So I did an investment. That's a traditional financial investment, by the way. I also went long on a silver play, the 2X leverage silver fund, and silver's been freaking thriving. And open door. I talked about that on a stream recently. They had their earnings call. It ended up being a sell the news event. Got down to like $5, but it's back up to almost $9 now. They're rumored to be tokenizing real estate. Vlad from Robinhood got on their earnings call. That's one that could definitely go. LFP, lithium iron phosphate. Hell yeah, man. That is solid battery technology. So you have your lithium ion batteries, which tend to be like what you use in your phone and stuff. They tend to be a little bit lighter. But you generally, from, I guess, from like 20 to, or from 0 to 20 and from 80 to 100, you kind of have to taper your charging. And you kind of, especially if you're using like home storage, you don't really get to use your full capacity. Lithium iron phosphate's legit though. They're heavier, but that's some great battery technology, man. Lithium iron phosphate is the future, in my opinion. Back when I used to sell those in the solar industry, they're super expensive. But yeah, coming down, man. That's going to be solid. Like when you get solar, this is what's going to be super sick. Like when you get solar on your roof, you've got your lithium iron phosphate batteries, you've got your EV, right? So you're literally charging your car with the sun. You have backup, and you're using all your utilities and everything, and all your devices in your house from the sun. And then it'll get to a point where, like, let's say it's a winter storm, you're not going to go anywhere anyway. you're going to be able to have the ability to actually run your house off your vehicle's battery. Pretty freaking sweet, man. It's going to be pretty cool. You got a solar company? That's cool. Man, I had under my umbrella probably like 2,000 sales reps for SunPower, and man, we were putting up some volume. In Illinois alone, we got to the point where residential. I had a bunch of sales groups that are out there, and we got to do between 35 and 40 megawatts a year of residential solar. It's crazy. But yeah, man, yeah, lithium iron phosphate is heavy duty stuff. Heavy duty stuff. But yeah, man, we were crushing it. Some really good sales reps out there selling solar leases. They penciled pretty well because the incentives here in Illinois. The other thing to think about too is electric rates aren't going to go down, guys. Like the AI movement's pushing rates up, and then just in general, rates are going to go up. Like only 40% of your electric bill is supply; the rest is actually delivery. And the cost of labor to maintain the grid goes up over time. The more electric rates go up, the more solar makes sense. So, in markets in the past, it'd just be like East and West Coast where electric rates are really high. It's going to get to the point where I think really everywhere in the country, regardless of whether you get great sun or not, it's going to pencil. So that's pretty cool. It's a lot of margin with direct sales. Yeah. Well, my job was to work with business owners. So I had owners of solar companies. So I would work with them on pricing strategy, marketing strategy, train their sales reps, and help them grow their business, frankly. And then I had just like sales groups, and then I had my own installer groups that managed installs on the operational side. So I was working both channels. And then we also had remote salespeople that worked directly for us out of Austin. So I worked with them as well. So it's like it's a lot of moving parts, man. But it was fun for a while. It was definitely you had to wear a lot of hats. But we had a CEO that took over that came over from Amazon and like totally messed up our company's DNA. And that it got to the point where I was like just putting out fires all day. So I won 2 national MVP awards in a row, and I was like, I'm out, dude. I can't do this anymore. So that's when I got out. Let's see, 30%. Yeah, unless you safe harbor, right? I mean, I think if you safe harbor enough stuff on leases, you can probably go longer. I'm not really sure though. I know that's in the past. That's how it worked. But yeah, and they have some extra incentives. It was like American made, but like nothing's really American made. They hadn't defined it that clearly. A lot of shit is like made overseas and then like assembled here, like especially solar cells and stuff. But yeah, they're trying to crush the industry. But I'll tell you what, man, on the utility scale side of things, they're gonna have to turn to it. For AI, there's no doubt. Like they need to increase electric production. Have you guys looked at that chart? I haven't in my video, but China electric production versus the US, it's pretty wild. See if I can find that chart real quick. And I got to hop off. Here it is. Put into service by end of year. Huh. Interesting. I know in the past, if it was a lease, you could safe harbor equipment. So as long as you bought it in a prior year, and like I think more than 50% of the project was using that equipment from before the tax credits ended, you could still get it for like another year or so. But I don't know if they close that loophole or not. Let's see here. I'm going to show you guys the electric production. There it is. How do we add the US? Oh, there we go. That's per person. We don't want per person. Let's pull this up. Terawatt hours. So if we add the United States here, look at that, man. That is electric generation. China parabolic. The US is just lagging. And this is where they're going to crush us. Though this is a really critical time right now. Because AI, like we can hold back chips, whatever. It's forced them to innovate. Like they've developed ways to use less powerful chips, especially for inference, right? Most about 80% of chip usage is going to be for inferencing, for interacting with the model, is not so much as for training like it has been. But the big problem is going to be electric power, man, and we don't have enough power on the grid. And it's gonna be a huge problem for us. And China, they've installed more solar per year than we've ever installed in history in the U.S. But they're also doing coal, they're doing nuclear, they're doing everything they have to because they're also moving to EVs. But the other things they're kicking their ass on is robots, man. Robotics, they're so far ahead. It's crazy. I was talking to Nils about that from Aoki on my space, and he said, China, because they limited how many children people could have for so long, they knew they were going to have population issues. And they started investing, the government started investing heavily in robotics a long time ago to try to, get ahead of it, to take on the labor that they don't have enough youth to take on. They're also doing open source. So like they've got, a couple hundred robotics manufacturers. That's where Aoki is crushing it because they're essentially able to work with every manufacturer to navigate spaces and to build apps because it's gonna be open source programming. The US is going a completely different route. They're going to have like 3 companies that basically control everything. Their software is not going to be open source. They're going to control all the software, all of everything. So very closed system. So they're going about it in a very different way. And I think they hope they can catch up. But I don't know, man. As it stands right now, unless something drastically changes, I think China is going to kick our ass in AI and robotics. At least we have a lot of catching up to do. And this is the biggest problem, in my opinion, is the electric generation. Whew. Let's see. We're up at an hour here. U.S. will build a ton of combined cycle gas turbines. Yeah. Cheap gas supply. Yeah, we have a lot of those like peaking plants, right? Too, where there are times of the year where you need, especially in the summer, everyone's running their air conditioning and everything. You have plants like that you can just turn on to meet that high end demand. So you don't have to build additional, plants to meet that demand. So yeah, we probably will. But I think nuclear is going to be huge. That's why nuclear investments are, I think, really solid. We're going to see a huge, not just in the U.S., but all over the world. We're going to see a lot of nuclear plants. India is also building a bunch. China too. And then I think solar. I think solar will do well, actually. All right, guys. That was fun, man. I'm going to be on the happy hour in like an hour. Is that right? Yeah, I think it's an hour. Yeah. So we'll be on there. Definitely tune in if you can. If not, it'll be recorded. And I will see you then. Appreciate all you guys. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and follow me on X if you haven't already, and share if you would. See ya.